our meeting today. And then also I have Kristen Douglas monitoring the chat for us. Becky and Sandy are out at a NASD conference. Um, so you guys are stuck with me today. I have a short meeting today. I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's pretty precious these days. Becky did want you guys to know that she will be presenting at the SCASA Special Education Roundtable on the 25th. The presentation you're about to see is a portion of what she is presenting to them, and then also what we just presented to our advisory council, our Special Education Advisory Council. So it's kind of a combination. All right. So welcome to the directors meeting for September 23rd, 2020. We have been trying to start all of our meetings and all of our presentations with just kind of a reminder of both our department vision and our office mission, so that we kind of are aligning our work and we're sure that all the things that we are doing are working towards the same thing. We at the office have worked very hard, at the Office of Special Education Services have worked very hard to ensure that the activities that we're doing are what is most important and are going to lead to student outcomes. So the South Carolina Department of Education, all students graduate prepared for success in college, careers, and citizenship. And by 2022, districts will have an available system of personalized and digital learning that supports students in a safe learning environment to meet the profile of a South Carolina graduate. We also, as an office, are pointing back to that profile of a South Carolina graduate, where you see there on the bottom how we're going to meet the profile of a South Carolina graduate with world-class knowledge, world-class skills, and life and career characteristics. And in order to do that, you guys have seen our new logo a couple of times. We've reorganized our office, but we have also created a new logo. We have a new logo for the Office of Special Education Services. So each part of this logo has different meanings. The 3 stars depict the college, careers, and citizenship successes in the vision of the profile of the South Carolina graduate, and they're differentiated by point, number, and size. They show the difference in meaning, regardless of whether the logo is printed in full color and size. So whether you have color or whether it's just printed in black and white, you can still see the difference in the stars. The green is for growth, the blue is for ambition, and the orange is for success or optimism. And you see the student reaching for the stars in gray represents the color gray itself represents stability. Of course, the letter O is for OSIS, and blue is the large O. It creates the large O is for OSIS. And the hand connected to the letter O indicating the support students with disabilities receive as a result of the service as OSIS provides. So, and our new tagline is supporting equitable access for all students. So we kind of wanted to share that with you guys. So as you see that coming out on some of our things, and it just, like I said, all needs to go back to that profile of a South Carolina graduate. Because if we are all working towards that, then all kids are be getting what they need. And here's the kind of the who, what, when, where, why of what we're doing. So we're going to provide consistent, collaborative, proactive support and direction through database decision making, quality instruction, family community engagement, and fidelity of implementation. And if we do those things in academic, social, emotional learning, early childhood development, and post-secondary outcomes, then the infrastructure capacity of our districts will increase, and there will be sustainability of those outcomes for kids. And of course, the why is the equitable access and support. So this just kind of takes that mission statement, our office mission space statement, and puts it together with what we're doing, why we're doing, and how we're doing it. So you'll notice our big shifts have come with if you're not compliant, you're not improving outcomes for students with disabilities. We're going to discuss the system of tiered assistance in just a moment. I know we have sent out all of those recordings. I do know that the fourth video, or the final video that we had sent, does have there's some technology issues, some audio issues with that. We are working on that. We will get that fixed. But those 4 videos, I wanted to present a little bit of a synopsis of the short version. I'm going to give you the short version because we're going to have deadlines, letters going out with those folks who will be getting monitored and receive that additional differentiated support based on those outcomes. And they will have some tasks that are due and some deadlines coming up. So I wanted to be sure that everybody, whether you've had a chance to listen to the videos or not, has had a chance to um, hear a little bit more about the SOTA. You'll also hear more about it at our fall admin as it comes up October 21st. But the other piece of that is we are also part of monitoring. We are being monitored by the feds, the Office of Special Education Programs. The federal government, the United States Department of Education, is rolling out their new monitoring system, which is a differentiated monitoring and support system, and it's the 2.0. I know Becky's talked about it a little bit. It's just focused on improving outcomes and results for infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities and their families in conjunction with compliance. There's definitely a much heavier focus on outcomes. We are making that shift with our monitoring as well. And there's very specific components, and there are things integrated across components. We have aligned a lot of our new system with the way the feds will be doing theirs as well. And it's designed to address needs and issues. Their process is a 3-year monitoring process. So the first year, this year, we have been selected for the first cohort. We will begin in October of this year with our pre-site and preparation. And year 2, they will be on site here with us. And in year 3, there will be some post-monitoring correction and technical assistance. And of course, as always, this is a little bit different visual of the puzzle pieces that Becky always shows you that are the 8 components of general supervision. They've kind of OSEP has revamped their picture a little bit, so it looks a little bit different now. Exact same material, just a little bit more modern looking of a logo there. We wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about, like I said, the Special Education Services System of Tiered Assistance, or the SOTA.
Nicole, Nicole, before
Yes.
you share the SOTA, would you reshare your screen again? I think we are missing your screen share.
Oh dear. 1 second. When did that happen?
Just a minute ago.
Okay. Whew.
The very last slide that you said, the very last slide that you just shared, we need to see that one.
I should be back at the beginning. Are you guys there?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Still there?
Yep, we're there. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. So the SOTA is the kind of the theoretical and practical foundation for how we're going to provide support and direction in the areas of early childhood academic, social, emotional learning, post-secondary outcomes, and finance. And those are the risk assessment portion of the SOTA is based on your LEA determinations. You guys have had your been getting LEA determinations for a couple of years now, but we are taking just the outcomes elements of that and finance. And those folks that will be receiving additional support will be completing activities like a root cause analysis, and then there will be an IEP and service implementation review. And again, here are there are 4 focus areas, which is the social, emotional, post-secondary, early childhood, and academics, but also the big, huge finance piece. We will continue to monitor finance. Our finance department has monitored in a differentiated system for a very long time, so they are very much ahead of this. Ahead of us, but they will continue, because if you can't spend your money right, we can't get money. But so the way you are chosen for the additional support and monitoring through the SOTA is we use 3 years worth of data, 3 consecutive years from your LEA determination. So if you remember, you are either meets requirements, needs assistance, needs intervention, or needs substantial intervention. So to qualify as part of the support the tiered group that will receive monitoring and support, you have to have been needs assistance a minimum of 3 years in a row. So no mathematicians are necessary. We wanted to be sure that this was very easy system that anyone could pick up and look at and figure out where they stand. So automatically, if you've been meets requirements anytime in the last 3 years, you will not be part of that tier 2 and tier 3 that receives the additional monitoring and support. The other piece, just even if you were more than needs assistance or greater, in the last 3 years, it's also going to be only based off of those 7 performance factors, which include graduation, discipline, reading, math, LEA, the preschool LEA, LRE, and the school-aged LRE, and career readiness. So from those seven scores, each of them has a possible score of 3. So there's a possible of 21 points. So using those 7 compliance factors, this is just the LEA specifically. This slide actually should have went before the other one, but it's got the point system. There's 5 compliance factors and 7 performance factors, and there's 3 points assigned for each factor. That's the LEA determination. For the tiered system, you need to be needs assistance or higher for at least 3 years in a row to be considered at risk, and you'll receive targeted or intensive tier 2 or 3 assistance if the average score of those 7 performance factors are 10.99 or less for those 3 years. We have approximately 21 districts that are on that tier 2, tier 3 list. We have letters that will be going out shortly. Again, that's kind of why we wanted to be sure that if you haven't watched the videos, please watch the videos, but then also to give you the quick and dirty of those 4 videos so that we can feel good that everyone has at least heard it. So we will be monitoring for outcomes. The first step in the process is those districts. You will receive a letter. It is set to go out the first week of August. There are 2 things that are happening in between then. We are getting the training video ready for the root cause analysis, so you know how to complete it. And then we are also, there is a revamp of the website. So the website will look different come October 1st. It is going to lay out in those groups that include post-secondary outcomes, social emotional learning, early childhood outcomes, and academics. So it will be in those groups. There will also be one for finance, and then we're keeping one specifically for data and then general supervision, because there's things that we have to post legally to stay compliant, and they will go in that general supervision box. Also, as we're getting audited, that's where our auditors can go to look to find everything that they need. But you will see everything will begin to fall out in those 4 groups. So those 2 things are going to become aligned, and then you will get that letter that says if you are in that tier 2 or 3. In our first year, we're combining tiers 2 and 3 for multiple reasons. One, we're on a very short time frame. You guys are getting these way late in the year. In the future, you'll have them by August 1st. And then also, just with everything else that is going on in the world right now, we needed to push this out later and give you an abbreviated process. So what the root cause analysis will do, it's going to help identify the actual problems, so that you're not fixing symptoms, so that you're not just trying to fix a symptom of the problem and never actually getting to the cause, and then determine why that problem is occurring. It is 4 different areas. The root cause analysis is from 4 different areas from those 4 focus groups, and they have taken different technical assistance center, federal technical assistance center resources, and compiled some of those best practices or best supports, and then all of the high leverage practices from OSEP as well, and kind of put them into a short root cause analysis. I will tell you, to fill the root cause analysis out itself will take you approximately 45 minutes. That's to fill it out. However, I will tell you, if you follow the process and use a team process to get the answers within the root cause analysis and really look at your data to find out why you are where you're at, it's going to take some lead-in time, which is why you will be getting those letters the first week in October, and that root cause analysis will be due November 13th. And I, of course, am talking ahead of my slides, so we'll come back around to that in just a minute. But it also makes sure that you are expending your efforts in the right places, and selecting the appropriate intervention strategies to actually fix the cause and not the symptom. So that first recording, we really talked very heavily about how we came around to this. We worked very closely with the National Centers for Systemic Improvement. South Carolina itself has been a needs assistance state for many, many, many years. And part of what that is telling us is, even though the activities at the state level we have been doing have been compliant, they have not changed outcomes, which is part of how and why we are changing our processes, because what we were doing wasn't working. It wasn't changing outcomes for students. And so as we worked with NCSI, there are multiple different indicators, or desired elements of general supervision system that will improve outcomes. And the big one is that it's differentiated. And that's why you'll see that's what you'll see in the SOTA, is the differentiation based on needs. The supports include a feature to check data. It includes both the risk assessment and a root cause analysis, which our risk assessment is that LEA data, and the root cause analysis is those who show unhealthy data will be completing that root cause analysis. And that we're also looking at data that for different levels of support. So the root cause analysis will also help us differentiate our support. So part of the way I've been explaining it to everyone is that if you come to me and tell me I need to lose weight, but I don't think I need to lose weight, we're never going to make any progress. So that root cause analysis will help you to tell us where you think your problems lie. And so we can provide you the right support. Because it's not just support from OSIS specifically. We also have TASC, who will be helping with our post-secondary outcomes, our districts who are struggling with post-secondary outcomes. We have BASC, who will help with our districts that are struggling with social emotional learning issues. We have SCIPPY, which will help our early childhood groups, and academics we are still working on. We have contacted, not yet contracted, multiple different vendors or independent contractors about the possibility of putting together a couple of different partnerships. There are also, I do know USC has written a couple of different grants in the areas of academics that we could use as part of that support, but until we know whether they receive those grants or not, I don't want to talk about them too far about them. But then also that we're providing feedback on particular groups of children, and it's tied to that tier of support, that we will resolve each and reach agreement on discrepancies between what your data says and what our data says, and that it addresses the performance that are identified through the data. That there will be a focus on intervention, and that will help decide what interventions we offer based on those different levels and those different needs. That's another aspect of the SOTA that you'll see. Those districts that are in universal supports, we are here for you and we will do whatever you need. We will provide, as that last bullet says, a way for you to request technical assistance. But if you are in the universal support area or the universal tier, for the most part, we're going to get out of your way and let you do what you need to do. We don't need to burden you with additional things on top of what you're doing if your data shows that you're healthy, if you're graduating your kids, and you've got good assessment results. And so that is also another aspect that we built in. And then part of the system is that everybody does need to understand the differentiated process. And so that is part of why we've been titrating it on a slow IV drip with the different videos and things like that. We've also been pushing it out to different groups such as SCASA, or help me, our advisory council, and presenting it again here to you today. The other thing that we will be doing, and I'll talk about it when we get to the fall admin, is fall admin will be dedicated to those 4 focus groups. It's going to be about monitoring change and working through change, but those 4 focus groups are going to really show you the work that they have spent doing this summer. And for those groups that are tiered, it would be a really great time for you to see everything they've done, so that as you build an action plan, based off of your root cause analysis, you'll know what supports that are already there built in for you. So there was quite a few considerations we made when we created the SOTA, and I think there are important considerations that people know that we thought through. These come largely from the Center for Assessment. There are more than this, but these were the 4 we found. The Center for Assessment helps, they are actually helping the State Department write their ESSA accountability system, rework their ESSA accountability systems. There's more components or design principles than this, but these were the 4 that applied heavily to this particular material, or the SOTA specifically. So one of our first considerations was, what is most important to us? Do we need to be able to monitor, know when people are changing, or be able to change the system as we need to, as we find things that aren't fitting our needs, or if the feds change requirements or anything like that? Or is comparability over time most important? So as you know, to compare over time, you have to have the same measure. You can't, to be able to compare between years, you have to know they have to be the same measure. You can't change up your measure. So that's why we're using the LEA determinations. We have 3 years worth of data already. Those components are going to stay the same. However, we did also want to be able to make modifications over time in case we find out that it's not serving our needs, or that we find we have other needs. So we will also be adding to that LEA determination system. We intend to add in the future dropout rate, COSEF, and significant disproportionality. There are different reasons why we have not added any of those 3 at this time. The dropout rate, get ready, be prepared. With the LEA determinations and our SPP APR, there are 2 ways that you can report dropout rate, but only one way that the Fed actually measures it. The feds will measure it exactly how ESSA measures it. They don't care about our second measurement. Well, the second measurement is the one that we've been reporting, which shows us at approximately a 6% dropout rate. So you guys are going to see it change dramatically, because we're going to go to how ESSA reports it, because that's how we're measured. So get ready to see new targets for dropout rates. With that in mind, we will also be changing the targets for the dropout rates, because I'll tell you, our dropout rate as a state is closer to 31% than 6%. We couldn't figure out why we were always in the bottom 10 in the country with our dropout rate, when our dropout rate was 6%. And that's when we learned about the 2 different measurements. So we are going to adjust how we measure dropout rate moving forward. I do not have a deadline for when that change will happen. Same for COSEF. COSEF, I do not have a deadline for when that might change, but we will be adding COSEF eventually. We haven't added it yet because the data itself isn't clean, isn't consistent. It's not measured in a consistent, objective way all the time, and there are many teachers who struggle with that. So we hadn't added it in because it's not good data yet. So that early childhood team is providing quite a bit of supports in that area. And as we get better at that, that will get added in. And then with significant disproportionality, we will also be in the future adding the significant disproportionality. So we are building for change, but we also wanted to be sure that we could change over time. So we are going to keep all the indicators that we currently have, we will be keeping. But we also wanted it to be able to adapt over time. So simplicity versus comprehensiveness, we wanted it to be straightforward and uncomplicated. Like I said earlier, no mathematicians needed. We are talking about sums and averages. And like if you have had to calculate significant disproportionality, or if you've had to talk to Carolyn about how significant disproportionality is calculated, that takes a mathematician. That is a huge task. And you almost need to hire someone or have a very special someone that can do those things for you. We wanted this to be something that literally any of our districts, if you had your LEA determinations, could figure it out. And so, like I said, it is sums and it is averages. So we wanted to keep that very, very simple because we wanted all districts to be able to review their own data and know exactly where they stand. The way we built in comprehensiveness was with the root cause analysis, because you guys are so much more than a measure on the LEA determinations. There's so much more to it. And so that root cause analysis captures the individual differences within an LEA so that we can account for those unique factors. So even though the measurement itself is very simple, we did want to build in some very comprehensive, once you have reached that at-risk threshold, some very comprehensive analysis. It's comprehensive enough that we didn't want to simply make everyone do the root cause analysis, because we'll also get to the burden slide in a minute here, minimizing burden. So for implementation, you kind of have to decide, are you going to do it right or are you going to do it right now? And right would be if we had absolutely everything tied up, rolled up, described, defined, and beautiful. But like the example is right now, we're not differentiating between tier 2 and tier 3 because it isn't rolled up and tight and perfect. We need to allow some time for our universal supports to be implemented. We've never really provided supports in this way, this universal support way before. So we also need a little bit of time to have that be implemented and so that we can see an impact. We opted for a quicker implementation because we have been needs assistance as a state for far, far too long. And our current system is not working and we need to make change now. We were planning this change even prior to COVID, so COVID slowed our implementation down. So we did take that into consideration, but we can no longer be paralyzed by the fear of change when we know what we're doing isn't working. And then the last big decision-making part was minimizing burden versus being able to collect new data. So minimizing burden, that is all stuff you guys have been reporting on for years. It will require nothing new from you. The only thing we're going to ask, we do have something that we are calling assurances, and it is just kind of I solemnly swear that I am meeting the obligations required in IDEA. You will see those next year. Because we are trying to minimize burden at this point in everyone's lives. I let you guys get to school and get things rolling. But for the new information, so we did need to collect some new types of data, especially with that root cause analysis, so that we can actually provide the right types of support. But we wanted to be sure we were adding that additional work in ways that were meaningful for the people that had to go through it. So again, it is the indicators that are really driving our work. These are based on our SPP indicators that we report to the feds. So this is stuff you guys are giving us anyway. But early childhood is the preschool LRE. And then COSEF, positive social emotional skills, knowledge and skills and appropriate behavior, knowledge and skills and appropriate behavior. And then 12 is the transition between part B and C. And then for academics, the big ones, of course, are your math and reading statewide assessment indicators, your statewide assessment results. And then your indicator 5 is your school age LRE. And then for our social emotional group, ooh, my font looks funny on this page. It is discipline. This is also the group that is working with significant disproportionality. That is not necessarily how it will always work. It is working that way because we only have 2 areas where we have districts that are significantly disproportionate, and 3 of them are discipline, and 1 is identification of African American students who are ED. And so both ED and discipline does kind of fall in that social emotional realm. If we were to have districts that were to be significantly disproportionate regarding placement, that could possibly fall to probably the academics group. But for right now, it is falling solely in the social emotional group. And then, of course, the post-secondary outcome group works with grad rate, dropout rate, transition services, and post-school outcomes. So this is the way we are organizing to implement. The other thing that we found within our office is that we are very siloed. We are very siloed and very separate from one another. So there are 2 ways that this is going to happen. We will have our focus groups, but then we will also have our cohort groups. I was not at the last directors meeting, but they were going to roll out the cohort groups at that time. I hope you got those. But so think of that jigsaw puzzle, think of the jigsaw activities teachers do in the classroom, where you put a group together and they become an expert in a very specific place. So we will have experts in early childhood, post-secondary, social, emotional, finance, and academics. They become an expert in every one of those places. And then in that teacher activity, they go back to another group, and there's one person from each of those groups there, and they teach the group back. That will be the cohort group. That cohort group with an expert from one of those areas will support districts. We looked at a lot of different ways to break up those cohort groups for districts. We looked at the way Sarah has them broke out, CERRA, not Sarah, a person. The way Sarah has them broke out. We looked at consortium. We looked at it was another government agency that had everybody broken out. I believe it was either DHEC or DSS. Except the problem became is we also wanted to be sure that, because we have approximately 21 districts, we wanted to be sure that those districts that needed more support were spread out evenly, and that there were other considerations. Very large districts were taken into consideration, make sure we spread those out a little bit. And then districts who typically, even though they aren't on our in tier 2 or tier 3, need a little more support, those were spread out as well. You see color coded here how that landed. In the different colors are all together in a single cohort. So for 2021, yes, ma'am.
Nicole, can I interrupt you real quickly? We have just a couple of questions in the chat regarding
That's awesome.
About cohort groups.
Yes.
If you haven't seen the information about cohort groups, if that could be resent out, can we do that?
Yes, I am going to put up a slide for questions next. While that is up, well, actually, I was going to say, let me attach it in the chat, but I can't attach things in the chat here. I will reply all to everyone, include this presentation, and include those cohort groups.
All righty. And one other real quick question. Could you remind the group where they can find the recordings for the SOTA information? Find the recordings and the slides.
I have the recordings all together in one in one Word document. I will attach those in a Word document. Becky had sent those to the whole group previously, but I will attach that again. But I will say again, recording 4 that gets into the 4 groups as they talk about some of their stuff has some audio problems. So we do know that, and we are working on getting it fixed. We're probably going to have to break it up into 2 recordings. But just know that when you go to look at that, the early childhood piece and the academics piece has some audio issues, and we are aware and we are working to get it fixed. We just didn't want to take it down in the meantime until we had something else to put back up.
Great. Okay, there are a couple other questions. Do you want to continue or take these questions or do it at the end?
Nah, keep it going. We're almost done.
All
Like I
right.
said, I wanted to gift you back some of your time, as much time, blah, 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 as much as your time as I can. So we are about at the end, but yes, absolutely. Ask away.
Fantastic. That's great. Just a confirmation on the week that the letters will be sent out. Did you say the first week of October?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could confirm that the tiers that we talk about, they're universal tier 2 and tier 3.
Yes.
There also, will the cohort districts include the districts that were in that group of 21 you mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In
Yeah.
each cohort group, there will be approximately 6 districts who will be in tier 2 and tier 3, along with another 12. I think it's 12. I've been saying 12. I hope it's 12 districts who are not tiered.
Fantastic. And I think that is all. We've addressed all the questions in the chat so far.
All right. So kind of so we can tie it all together, I will send all that stuff out to you guys. Fall admin is happening October 21st, not October 1st. October 21st. We are very excited to be able to do it virtually for the first time. And so to tie all of this together, like I said, you guys will get that letter in the first week of October, those districts that are tiered, so that, and you'll be able to see that. And so when you come to fall admin, you can look at those presentations on the supports each of those teams offer through a different lens. You can think of it through a lens of how can I incorporate this in to any action plan I need to create. So those root cause analysis, that letter will have links to all of the root cause analysis. So you'll be able to open them, read them, see them, and go through them in any way that you'd like. Once you get that letter, they are in those, the links are in there, but they don't have to be submitted until November 31st, November 13th. And we did it that way because we wanted you to be able to, if you were able to assemble a team and really look hard at your data and look hard through those root cause analysis to ensure that you're working on the right things, you're going to need time. Like I said, the form itself is it is less than an hour, and that's being wildly generous, probably closer to 40 minutes. But if you want to think deeply about the questions that are in it, you need to take time. And so part of that training video that will come out linked in that letter will kind of explain some of the best practices when doing a root cause analysis, how to look at it, some of the things you'll need to collect beforehand, and some of the people you might want to include. And then an action plan based on that root cause analysis will be due December 11th. And those timelines are designed to accommodate the current landscape in education. And the expectations of the action plan are totally adjusted in consideration of the abbreviated time frame. So we understand that you will be under a short time period to get anything done. The other thing is with the SOTA, you need to realize this is about changing outcomes. So there's very good potential to be tiered multiple years in a row to receive that support. So the way it would look is we'd almost use that root cause analysis as the baseline, and you would do another root cause analysis at the beginning of the next year. So you could, there in a rubric, you compare side by side, see how you have improved and what you have changed and where you still need to improve. And then it is about support and supporting you, and either hooking you up with the right people or getting the right staff at OSIS to help you. And when I say the right people, I mean TASC, I mean BASC, I mean Skippy, I mean vendors, I mean, this is about support. Questions?
Yeah, Nicole, we do have a few that have popped up in the chat. And this is back to talking about our cohort districts and the group that will need tiered supports. Will that group be delineated in that cohort information that's being sent out that we're posting?
No, it is intentionally not delineated.
Okay, great. And with the changes to the OSIS webpage, will this presentation be posted, and where will that be posted?
Carolyn, are you on? Do you know? I cannot answer that. I know once it I know where it goes right now, but once it changes, I don't know where they end up. But all of the recordings from all of this have been under the COVID banner. But that is going to be changing. So I don't know where they will go after this. Carolyn, do you know? She may be at NASD as well. I will find out for you.
And I think that's all. Also, just to let you know that the COVID banner has already been removed. So that will be information important. Thank you.
Well, and what we did, you guys, is it's not that we removed the information, it's that the COVID, the way it was laid out, that's right, IT had finished it. The way it was laid out is we intended to provide as much support as we could during that transition last year during our emergency deployment, as Becky often calls it. And it became one very cumbersome. There was so much information that it became hard to sort through the information and find anything that was helpful. So what we did is we had those 4 focus groups go through all of those supports and think of it through the lens of virtual learning and think of it through the lens of what are the best practices in the area of social emotional learning through virtual learning, and every group did that and came up with the best resources of that bunch for virtual learning, because that's really how that COVID support needs to look right now. Other than how do we do our IEPs, which is in the documents that we sent out, it's okay, how do we support you now that the emergency is over and now we're into regular instruction. I hate to call it that. We're back to regular instruction again. How do we support you to be able to provide it in those different modes? So that's why we made those changes. That's why the COVID box is gone, because it has been updated. All right, if no one has any questions, I will gift you back 28 minutes of your life. Thank you, everybody, for everything that you do. And I cannot imagine how hard it must be to work in districts right now. I attended Lexington One's school board meeting last night as a parent, and you guys are having to make very big, very hard decisions, and we are very grateful for you. Please reach out if there's anything we can do. Thank you.